Thank you for trusting us to kickstart your morning. Now, special life milestones like weddings, birthdays, and graduation parties represent continuity and growth. They are unbroken threads that shape a person's life. As such, we should aspire to always celebrate such milestones with friends and family as a way to acknowledge your own success and motivate yourself to keep striving. But in recent years, an increasing number of people are throwing lavish parties at literally every little life detail. Not that there is actually any problem with that, only that the pressure to celebrate every single life milestone in such a big way has left many people spending beyond their means. And that's why this morning we ask ourselves, are we overdoing life celebrations? Good morning, this is your world and my name is Victor Kiprop. Coming up, the World Bank commits to support African countries to vaccinate at least 40% of their populations by the end of this year. Violence and looting enters the 6th consecutive day in South Africa despite heavy military presence.
The presiding officer will give directives to the police officer.
Voting kicks off in Kiamba constituency and Muguga ward by-elections. And weddings, bridal showers, birthday and graduation parties are all important life milestones. But are we over-celebrating them? The frequency of how we celebrate lives event and how much we spend on it. That's what we want to talk about this morning. And we ask you on our question of the day, do people overdo and overspend on celebrations? That is weddings, baby showers, bridal showers, burials, and much more. Do people overdo and overspend on these celebrations? Tweet us at NTV Kenya and at Victor Kiprop _ Use the hashtag #NewNormal. You can also, of course, send your feedback on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, where we're streaming live. If you're not on social media, you can call in and be part of this conversation. But before we get into that conversation, let's give you a quick update of the coronavirus situation in Kenya and across the world. These are the latest figures according to Corona Tracker. 189,165,624 people have so far been confirmed with COVID-19. That's across the world. 172,790,044, of course, of them have recovered. But sadly, we've lost 4,074,457 people to COVID-19 across the world so far. In Kenya, these are the latest figures according to the Ministry of Health. 190,183 people have been confirmed with COVID-19 so far in Kenya. 180,624 of them have recovered, but sadly we've lost 3,737 of course of them who are of course to COVID-19 so far, and that figure keeps going up, by the way. And we have to remind you to continue following the protocols set by the Ministry of Health, including washing your hands, sanitizing at all times, masking up of course at all times, and maintaining the 1.5 meters social distance. Now, we start our update of what else is happening across the African continent with, of course, the voting, the by-election voting that is underway in Kiamba constituency and Muguga wards in Kiambu County as voters seek to elect new representatives. The voting started, I believe, at 6 a.m. And my colleague Kennedy Mureithi, of course, is on the ground with the latest. Good morning, Kennedy. You are on the ground. How are things going?
Well, a very good morning to you. We are coming to you live from Kiamba constituency at Karuri Primary School, where queues are starting to build, and they have been building since 5 o'clock this morning when we were doing a spot check of the polling stations. Remember that this constituency has 154 polling stations, and each and every person is actually coming out to make sure that they exercise their democratic right. When we started at about 6 o'clock in the morning, the queues were not so long. The numbers were not as high, but we are seeing them building slowly by slowly as most people are now coming out to make sure that they do exercise their right. But also what we've been able to notice this far is that the police are very firm in making sure that they exercise their mandate at every polling station that we've gone. Others who are coming even without masks are being turned away just to make sure that the COVID-19 protocols, as you've said, Victor, are being observed to the latter. Another matter that we've been able to realize is that every polling station has about 2 police officers, as had been communicated by the IEBC yesterday, and they're making sure that everything goes seamlessly. We've also been able to realize that the moment one votes, or even how the police officers have arranged themselves, is that there are those who are manning the polling stations, and there are also those who are making sure that after one person has voted, they are not lingering within the compound of the school just to make sure that they do not influence any other person. We've been witnessing this since we came in, my camera person Nelly and I, and we've been able to notice that there is a bit of strictness that is being observed in most of the polling stations that we are going. Also for us as media, before they allow you into any polling station, they want to confirm if you are even accredited. The observers in those particular rooms are also very clear about what they want to see, including when the IEBC official wants to check your badge, as they did for us. They were very keen just to make sure that also the observers and also the agents of the particular candidates are able to note what they see. Another matter that we've been able to see, Kiprop, is the fact that there are some voters who needed some assistance when it came to voting, and all the agents in that particular room actually stood up and went to that voting booth just to make sure that they see if that voting is going according to what the voter has said, or they are being induced into saying something. There are so many other matters that we've been able to notice, Kiprop, and yesterday we noticed a number of the members of parliament saying that there is a heavy presence of police in this particular constituency. But we've also realized that yesterday there were claims, Kiprop, that there are some people who might be ferried into this constituency. One other matter that we've also noticed is that in almost all the entry points to this particular constituency, there are roadblocks that are erected. Today morning, we even did a test with our driver, Jose, and we were able, once we got to the barrier, we were stopped, and the police wanted to see who are these people in that particular car, who are the occupants, and what is the business that you want to come do here. Vehicles that are moving out are not being checked out so much, but every vehicle that is coming into Kiambaa constituency is actually being checked. So we are going at different places, just doing a spot check to see how everything goes, and we do expect, as IEBC said yesterday, that this election is not going to be marred by any violence. But right now, we are keeping an eye on everything that is happening, and we'll be giving you briefs if and when we do get them during the day. Back to you, Kiprop.
All right, thank you, Kennedy. Definitely, this is a small by-election, but it's been sold as a make or break it, of course, for what it means for the two, of course, leading parties in the race at the moment. That is the United Democratic Alliance, UDA, and Jubilee Party. And we'll be coming back to you to get more details, of course, on what else is ongoing on the ground later on. But for now, let's just, of course, resume our broadcast here as we prepare for that conversation that we promised you. And the World Bank is ready to finance the vaccination campaign against COVID-19 in Africa, where it aims for vaccination rate of 40% by the end of this year. Speaking in Abidjan, that is in Cote d'Ivoire, on Wednesday, ahead of a meeting to discuss the institution's financial support for Africa, the World Bank Managing Director for Operations, that is Axel van Trotsberg, said the lack of access to vaccines in Africa is unacceptable. While 43 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine have been administered per 100 people in the world, the vaccination rate in Africa is 4 doses per 100 individuals. Besides being the slowest than the global average, the vaccination is marked by a striking divide between African countries. For instance, while Seychelles has inoculated 140 doses per 100 people, the rate in Chad was at 0.03% vaccines per 100 individuals. To the south of the continent now, on a story that we've been following up closely, an unrest raged in South Africa on Wednesday for the 6th day running, stoking fears of food and fuel shortages as disruption to farming, manufacturing and oil refining began to bite. At least 208 incidents of looting and vandalism were recorded on Wednesday, even as the number of troops deployed doubled to 5,000, with the country's Consumer Goods Regulatory Authority announcing that more than 800 retail shops had been looted. 72 people have died so far and more than 1,200 have been arrested, according to official figures, since former President Jacob Zuma began a 15-month jail term, sparking protests that swiftly turned violent. The violence has also seen civilians, including minibus taxi owners, take matters to their own hands and crack down on looters to stop the pilfering of stores destroyed by mobs. Elsewhere, over 300,000 teenage girls fell pregnant in 2020. This is according to a report released on Wednesday by Gender Cabinet Secretary Professor Margaret Kobia. The report, titled "The Impact of COVID-19 on Adolescents," has raised concerns about prolonged school closures due to COVID-19, stating that it led to the increase of teenage pregnancies, gender-based violence, permanent school dropouts, and mental health issues among the adolescents. Rosongoi has the report's findings and recommendations.
The outbreak of COVID-19 forced schools to shut down for 8 months, while at home between March 2020 to January 2021, adolescents faced a lot of challenges from early and unprotected sex, unintended pregnancy, early marriage, depression and sexual assault. A report released by Gender CS Professor Margaret Kobia sheds light on the effects of last year's closure of schools on the lives of adolescent girls and boys in Kenya. When schools reopened in January 2021, 16% of girls and 8% of boys did not return to school. This translates to approximately 250,000 girls and 125,000 boys not re-enrolling in school.
Where boys, a lot of them, because of the economic situations in their families, resulted to getting work, became border operators.
The report finds that 320,000 teens fell pregnant at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. 4% of 15 to 19-year-old adolescent girls are pregnant or recently had a baby, says the report.
This is a topic that people shy talking about, sexual and reproductive health for adolescents. That one I think we need to agree. How and who is going to provide it remains a dilemma. You know, in the curriculum we have struggled through comprehensive sexual education, and it is like the churches have a view, we have a view, other categories have a view, but this is a reality. We need to be bold enough and decide. For those who are clear in their mind, they need these services are available.
The study found that 52% of boys and 39% of girls reported experiencing physical violence during the pandemic, and about half of all adolescents said they had experienced symptoms of depression. The report further indicates that nearly 97% of adolescents reported challenges accessing learning materials during the pandemic. In addition, 75% of adolescents reported skipping meals, and 50% of adolescent girls have no access to sanitary pads. The report was launched as the government keeps its commitment to end all forms of gender-based violence by the year 2030. The study recommends bold action to address school dropout, adolescent pregnancies, lost learning momentum, violence and other negative consequences of the pandemic on the lives of adolescents in the country.
To capture the voices of young people meaningfully, not tokenism. And that means that platforms must be established throughout the country.
Rosongoi, NTV.
Very shocking statistics, of course, of pregnancy prevalence among teenage girls, especially during in 2020 during the COVID-19 period, where they were not going to school. It's now time to kickstart our conversation of the day. We are talking about celebrating life's milestones, which means celebrating your birthday, that is your wedding, your graduation, the baby showers, the bridal showers, and literally each one of them, the costs that come with it, the frequency, and whether we as a people are actually overdoing the celebrations. And we want you to be part of this conversation, by the way. That's why we ask you on our question of the day this morning: do people overdo and overspend on celebrations? Do people overdo and overspend on celebrations? You can tweet us at NTV Kenyan, at Victor Kiprop _. Use the hashtag #NewNormal. You could also send us your comments on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you're not on social media, you can call in on the numbers that will be below your screen in a short while, and of course be part of this conversation. But for now, allow me to introduce the people who will help us, of course, delve into the discussion of the day. In studio with me this morning is Patricia Zaina. She's with Literal Events and Creatives, basically the people who help you prepare your events, the graduation parties, the weddings, and all that. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
All right. Also joining us in studio this morning is Gloria Divine. Good morning, Gloria. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Yes.
And joining us virtually this morning is Apostle Benjamin Jatha. He is, of course, a religious leader with Kibali Ministry. Good morning, Benjamin. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Victor. Thanks for having me.
All right. And also joining us this morning as well is Mumbi Thande. Good morning, Mumbi. Good to see you. Karibu kwenye show.
And it's good to be here.
All right. Maybe we can start with the question that we asked people, which is whether we think we are overdoing and overspending on these celebrations. Let me start with you, Patricia.
It depends, I would say.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like you could go to Sanford and get a chicken, and you can also go to Sankara and get the same chicken. So at the end of the day, it depends on the client's budget. When they come in, we give them all varieties. We show them, it could be a centerpiece. For instance, the taller the centerpiece, the higher the cost. The shorter the centerpiece, they're more affordable. Yeah, and we'll definitely come to the issue of the costs and why sometimes they're too high. But let me just get to hear your feedback around from the panelists this morning. Gloria?
Personally, I think to some extent there are people who just go beyond the normal. But like she pointed out, for me it's a matter of preference. So, but I think for some people, because of a statement or there's a certain presentation you want to make, there's a certain statement you want to make, so you feel like the bigger the event, the more expensive the event, the bigger the celebration.
Is it wrong actually to make a statement?
There's nothing wrong with it. Please don't
there's
nothing
I want
wrong
to host the most expensive wedding in Kenya.
Yes, you can. You can, but I think typically depends on you as an individual, because I think if you have the money for it, I mean, why not? If I can have my wedding in the sky and spend 20 million, I mean, if I have the 20 million, why not? You know, why not if not?
Let me get Benjamin and Mumbi to quickly weigh in before, of course, we continue discussion. Benjamin?
Yeah, I think everything is relative. It depends on who you're asking. And some people don't see frugality as anything, just the same way others don't think extravagance as anything. So for me, it boils down to motive. You know, what is motivating you? Are you doing it for show off, or is it okay with you? Are you doing it to keep with the Joneses, or is it something that is within your realm of comfort?
Okay. All right. Mumbi?
I think I agree with everybody's sentiments. Overspending is relative. Depending on how much you're able to afford and how much you have and are willing to spend, I think you're okay to do whatever you feel is your prerogative. I feel like now the burden becomes when you have to tap into other people's expenses or other people's money to finance your extravagance, you know, going over and above your spending so that you can afford an event.
And of course, we'll come back to that, Mumbi. But I mean, come on, you're my friend. You should support me to have the dream of my wedding. I mean, the wedding of my dreams.
And I agree with that. I agree with that. As long as I am able to afford, I think it becomes a burden when you're telling me as part of your committee member, I have to give 10,000 shillings or else you won't make my wedding a success. If I feel like I can contribute 2,000 shillings and also my time and my friendship, I think that should be okay.
Okay. All right. All right. And we'll come back to, of course, the issue of pegging our friendships with how strongly you come through for me on my on my celebrations. But really, let's start with the cost, Patricia. And you organize these events every day, the weddings, the birthday parties, the whatnot and whatnot. Do they have to be this expensive?
No, they don't have to be. You know, we have different themes. We have simple and elegant, we have sophisticated. So if you come in with a simple and elegant kind of a budget, we could work with that. So what we do, we just take you through a list of the items that we have, the deco items. And as I'd mentioned earlier, they all vary. So it could be, you come in and tell me, Patricia, this is the budget we have. Yeah. And my first question will be, where is the venue? The venue really determines. Because why? For instance, if you're doing an event indoor, let's say like in a hotel, we have things like tables and chairs which already the venue has provided. So as a deco person, I could come in and just, you know, make a touch and make the space look wow. So that means I could come in maybe with a table linen and now a centerpiece. Remember, the hotel is already providing a table and chairs for you. So that becomes cost effective for you. So the venue really determines. The other thing is the number of guests that you have at your wedding. What does that mean? If you have 150 guests, that means 150 chairs for you. If you have 500, then that means the cost goes up because now we are counting in quantities. So the number of guests also depends, and also say the theme that you're looking at. So these are some of the details that will determine on the budget that you're going to spend on your day. Okay.
But Gloria, I would imagine that you have, you know, 300, 500 friends and you want all of them to come in because you want to make a statement. You want to be your wedding or your birthday party to be one to remember.
Sure. Yeah. So I will give a personal example because my wedding was very recent.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So the thing is, we had typically a wedding, I mean, my family alone, just family. I've not counted friends. I've not counted anybody. My family alone, we're hitting around 120. Yeah. So to have a wedding, especially now within the COVID guidelines and in the COVID season, it really, really made us have to, you know, like take it down and really, really prioritize on who is to come and who. So from a wedding of about 250 guests, we had to narrow it down to 50. So that means my bishops, my pastors, my leaders. They
have to be there, of course.
I have friends, I have colleagues, I have, you know, so many people. But I think for us, COVID really came in and you had to do it. So either you do it virtually, and of course when you go to virtually, you're talking about a package. So when you go to your photographer, they tell you, we're going to stream online, but you know it will cost you an extra 50,000, 60,000 to just do your wedding online. God, if you didn't, we have the video, we have including service providers.
And do you think that somehow helped you manage the costs from?
It did. Okay. It did, because initially when we were doing our budget, and we started early 2020, and we were doing our budget was coming to almost $1 million. Okay. For just the wedding. Oh. Please mind you, we've not talked about traditional. The tradition really worked out because we got 80 people, close people, yani genuine people, and you couldn't even tell the difference. Honestly, you couldn't. Okay. Because when I'm looking back, I'm like, oh my God, if I'm asked to repeat the wedding now, is you know with all the freedom and I'd still pick 80 people.
And that's nice, because I was about to ask you, if you look at the costs and how it went down, was it worth it?
It did. It was worth it, because now there are things that now I had to prioritize. Now there are things that for me, there was no compromise. You know, there are those items that there are no compromise items. And one of the things for me was videography and photography, because you don't get to repeat this day. So I might to the wedding, anybody who wanted to be part of the celebration. I mean, from $1 million, I think, I don't know whether we spent over 600.
Back then, weddings used to be pretty much very simple, and I mean, a small cake from the town center and it's done. We celebrate life. Yeah. But nowadays we have all the big 7 floors of cakes, the white dresses for the bridesmaids, the DJ, the massive tents. Where did this all come from? It feels like we are making everything big now.
Yeah, it is. I think it's like go big or go home, right? And I believe, I remember going back many years ago when I was a flower girl in weddings. They were super simple. I remember even the makeup, it used to be lipstick, and then you put it as the blush, you put it as the eyeshadow, and you know, you go on and walk down the aisle. But I feel like right now what has happened is there's been a prevalence of societal pressure that has made people feel like they need to do certain things so that they fit in. I feel like there's this thing also growing up as young women. You grow up seeing this knight in shining armor. I'll have my princess ball gown. I'll have all the trappings of a wedding. And so if I don't have that, it's not a wedding. And so my friends need to come through for me to ensure that I have the wedding of my dreams. And I feel like even social media has really played a big part, if everybody's being honest, with us having those feelings of, I need to have a wedding like so's and so's. Yeah. If I don't have it, the wedding is not complete. And it's not
just weddings, if I can hold you, Mumbi, it's not just weddings, it's bridal showers, it's birthday parties, it's what? It's not. So Mumbi had hers last week, I need to have mine to the same standard. I mean, people cannot look at me and say, "Ay, we are lishidwa ku."
Let me tell you a funny story. So 10 years ago, I had my own baby coming together in somebody's house, and they gave me gifts. And I feel like we've almost lost the essence of what the baby showers and bridal showers were all about. Because essentially it's sort of setting me up for this new season in my life. And now it feels like if you don't have a white dress, you can't show up. If you can't spend a certain amount to cater for your food, and it's buffet at the topmost restaurants, you can't fit in. And so I feel like we've lost the essence, and moving is her friendship enough for me to welcome her for this event. And I think we need to go back to the beginning.
No, it's I typically believe because I think I have been in touch a lot with the West African culture, and the West African culture believe a lot in celebration, a lot. Like if it's your birthday, it's announced a week before. You're even almost given leave off work, celebration, and people will give and people will come to celebrate you, and it is the essence of me celebrating this event. So in the season that I'm in, as an expectant mother, and celebrating the birth of my child coming into this world. But then it has started becoming about that essence of celebration, and becomes more about which photographer can I get, which flowers can I get, which hotel can I go to. You know, Trademark is doing this hashtag events at Trademark.
But I gotta, come on, Glory, yes, if I can afford it, why not?
We're not saying don't do it if you can't afford it. But I think even Mumbi has said it. She said it in a previous statement. She said, if you can, please go right ahead. But it's not just about the pressure to do it. It's about you wanting to do it however best you feel that you can. And if you can do it without having to inconvenience me as a friend, as an attendant, as because you can't tell me I'm attending a baby bridal or whatever celebration I'm attending, and the entrance is 2,500. And if I don't pay 2,500, I will not sit at your table and celebrate you. And who knows, maybe out of all the ones who paid, maybe I am the only, okay, not the only, but I am genuinely, you know, rooting for you and wishing the best for you. Because I think sometimes it goes beyond the money. I think it's about the goodwill. Just that essence of wishing you good and great, that energy alone, I think is enough.
Okay, let me just bring in Patricia on the issue of societal pressure. Patricia, because clearly there is an element to it. So you delivered a huge wedding for Glory. And do you sometimes get the feeling that another friend of Gloria's or another friend of yours comes to you next week and says, you know, I want the same. But if you look at the funds that she's bringing on the table, oh my God.
Yes, it happens. First, I would like to point out, besides everything, let's remember that these over-the-top events are creating job employments for us.
Yes.
So let's focus on the positive side for a minute there.
Okay.
Aside from that, I feel as a client, you Kiprop, if you come to me, you have a different personality than her. When you come in, you are telling me what you're visualizing for you. So sometimes you'd find it's a bit of a mixed up because now you're coming with someone else's vision. So for me personally, I try to scale down to what you as a client, because I feel like every event is different. Every event should be customized, different. It is my work to go back now to the drawing board. Come and you don't know what this will be. Oh, okay, this is interesting. Let's try this out. And also, remember, my reputation is something different. I will show you something different. I'll also mention, you don't want something cliche to point you in the right direction. Feel like this is me. This is the personality that I want my guests to feel.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me bring in Benjamin at this point. Benjamin, the pressure really from the society is a lot, and it can come from your peers. I mean, people who have done birthday parties and weddings like yourself, or even your own family who want you to do a wedding that fits the standard of this family. You know, we are the big name in this region. We want to be respected. Give us a good wedding that, of course, is in tandem with the good name that we have.
Yeah. And I think, what you and everybody is saying is true, because people are yielding more and more into society pressure. And a lot of that comes from comparison. And it's because we live in a very image-infested society, image-driven society. So everybody is on the social space, and we want to look as though we have it together, even if at times that's not really the case in the ground. So my great fear from that is we are losing our community in glitz and glamour, which is not ordinate. I feel like there should be no pressure on anybody whatsoever, on the host and on the community, because it's two-way. Some people, as Mombi was saying earlier, that if you don't have this dress or you can't pay for this amount for food at this restaurant, you can't come. And it means then that you're not giving support. Yet there are people who are out there who are really willing to give you support, you know, that goodwill, as one of us was saying here, that people would be willing to root for you, even if they don't show it in the material sense. So I think the pressure should be eased, even if you can afford it. Even if you can afford it, just doesn't give you leeway to do it over the board. I think modesty should come in so that everybody gets to enjoy as part of the community.
But come on, Benjamin, allow me to interrupt you. I mean, you did your wedding and it was fantastic. How do I, contain myself and say, mimi kama sitaweza kufanya, and we are friends. Everyone knows the two of us. We've literally been together all our lives. We've done things together. But when it comes to this bit about the wedding, I have to forego.
Yeah, you see, now that's where the problem is. You're saying everyone knows everybody, so you're doing it for sure. You're not even doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the people around you, you see. And this is where we pierce ourselves with so many sorrows, because you might even go take a loan so that you can put up this elaborate wedding or baby shower or whatever, or the bridal shower, whatever it is that you're celebrating. Yet at the end of the day, at the close of day, once those people leave, that's it. Nobody would ever want to care whether you're paying your bills, whether you have unga in the house. How many of those people that you're trying to impress would really come through for you when you have something going, something that you need help with, you see? So we need to get our priorities right and to do things that actually add value to us, and then they would hold for the long run. So why have a very expensive wedding and yet you're not even prepared for marriage? Or have this glamorous bridal shower or even baby shower, and then raise up that kid to become, you know, let me not use a bad word, but raise the kid in a proper way.
Okay.
So we have to have our priorities right and invest more in the things that really matter.
Allow me to bring in Mombe, because Mombe, it seems like from Benjamin's arguments, there's a direct correlation between the costs coming down when you're doing it as per your own needs. You want to do this for your friends and for your family, as opposed to perhaps doing it as a show off, as a, you know, as a statement.
Absolutely. I feel like if people were genuinely honest with themselves, and you know, to Benjamin's point, you're not doing it for show. And there is something about being honest and genuine with yourself. Like, can I truly afford this? You know, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest with your finances. And I know, like, one of the #1 causes of divorce is finances. And if you're already starting your marriage on the wrong footing of debt, of, you know, having loans outside there outstanding, I don't think it augurs well for your marriage. And maybe you can recoup and, you know, get your footing again. But I feel like you'd rather spend on, you know, building a solid marriage than a wedding, which is a one-time event. However, I am a big proponent of, even though you're going to do something small, you can do it nicely, right? And I think there's this really skewed notion that expensive means better. It doesn't necessarily mean that, and I'm sure Patricia will agree with me. You can have something very classy within, you know, 10,000 Kenya shillings, but it's just very nice. Okay. But you can also have something worth $1 million and it's not classy. So I think there's also this thing of equating expensive events to it being classy and vice versa.
I feel like you're attacking the rest of us who sometimes you organize a huge event, a huge birthday party, and they tell you he doesn't even have taste.
And you see, that's the thing. I think a lot of people go over and above their you know, they go over and above what they can afford to please people, and yet, you know, that thing, what about personality coming through, you can honestly tell this isn't Mombi's. This isn't what Mombi is about, right? I'm not about flashy colors. I'm not about big events. And yet I'm doing that to please my parents, who have invited 500 of their close friends to my wedding. And I think, like, to Gloria's point, this is the perfect opportunity to do events. You know, if there's any event you need to do it now during the pandemic, because you can really narrow down on your numbers and have something that's really nicely done.
And it's perfect excuse for not inviting anyone.
Go over and above your means.
Yeah, and of course I was telling Gloria that it's a perfect excuse for anyone not to tell you didn't invite me.
Well, of course, that's the reason, because 90% of the people who you ask, you're like, oh yeah, but there was COVID, oh yeah, because of COVID, or because of COVID. But honestly, like Mombi is saying, honestly, you can, okay, I just noticed, like, because I also, my sister also does events on the side. So you also notice there's a, how do I put it? Like, when you go out to look for, as long as you mention some of these events, you enter and say it's for a wedding. Prices shoot up. Like, e.g., when you're typically looking for a makeup artist, right? A typical makeup artist, maybe on a regular day, would charge you maybe even, let's say, 3,500 to 5,000, right? But immediately you say it's a wedding package. 15,000 for the bride only, and if you include bridesmaids, it's like 5,000. You know, as in, even as a society, different people have, like Mombi pointed out, it has become commercialized, because the minute you mention it's a party, it's a bridal shower we are going to, it's everybody now turns the clock and everything just goes up. Like, I have a friend who just booked makeup, didn't tell the makeup artist it was a wedding. The lady showed up and it's a wedding. And you know, the wedding, she's like, but you know, for weddings it's different. But she's like, I didn't ask you to do anything different. Just do what you do but I'm going to go for my wedding. Like
okay.
this, you know.
I would almost argue that there's quality for different events. But anyway, before we go to Patricia, of course, on what means for the growth of the events industry and perhaps how we can all do this and manage the costs, let's get to see what some of you have been talking to us on social media. Remember, we asked you, do you think we overspend or overdo, of course, on live celebrations? And Eric says, they do, considering events are milestones that need to be reminisced in life. Spending at these events is never felt because of the emotional attachment associated. Thank you, Eric. We have Kenneth who says, people should enjoy life. No one will get out of this world alive. Let people celebrate, Bwana. I'm actually adding my own words there. Morgan says, I do these things. I don't attend. I don't do these things. I don't attend. I don't involve. They have no meaning. That is, of course, the respectful views of Robert there. And Rose says, money talks. You can't do it when you are broke. Thank you, Rose. Of course, we'll highlight the issue of whether you can actually celebrate life within your means. And Mikey says, yes, my bro had a birthday on Sunday. He had all money I made this month. He was happy. I'm happy he loved it. So either go big or go home. Thank you, Mikey. And Jerry says, these are the people who happily support the economy. So many people make a living from this spending. Caterers, photographers, bakeries, MCs, DJs, etc. Thank you, Njeri. And we have Stacy who says, people can spend as much as they want to. Pesa ni yake. Issue comes when you borrow money to have fun. Thank you, Stacy. And of course, from the feedback I have taken out, I've picked quite a number of issues there. But let me just start with you, Patricia, on, of course, the issue that I said. This is a sector that really employs quite a number of people.
Could you please rephrase that?
Yes, I'm saying, let me just get your response to, of course, the comments by the viewer that indeed this is an industry we should support because it employs quite a number of people.
Yes, this is true. And also, we are people who are passionate about our work.
Yeah.
I will tell you an example. I used to work in Dubai before I came back to settle in Kenya. Yes. And I can tell you for sure I was not happy working there because I was the person checking you in when you come to the hotel, checking you out, and it was more of systematic. And I'm someone who likes mental stimulation. I like being outdoors.
Yeah.
And this happened after I already did my certificate. I graduated, that is from Samantha's Bridal. So I thought to myself when I was in Dubai, is this the life that I want to live? Am I happy doing this? And I thought, let me just go back home and do what I love to do. So I came back home and started from the ground, started tarmacking, looking for events and everything until I got a company that employed me. And when I was there, you know, nothing beats the joy of you're being paid to have fun. For me, that's how I see it. You know, that's how
something you love.
Exactly. So the moment a client walks in, I'm excited even for you. I'm taking you through these steps. And you can imagine, you come here from scratch. We are building it together. And from the moment that event is done and you yourself, you're happy, the feedback that I get blows me, beats me. People, they're just happy. And the guests come in and they love it. So let's forgive this. Let's remember this is also a passion for someone else.
Yeah.
Besides everything, we're just not there. Just of course we need money,
and of course you love the money.
Exactly. Well, yes, we all do. We have to pay bills at the end of the day.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you can imagine if there was not this space, someone like me, I would probably be stuck somewhere doing something that I don't love. And and we all know when you're forced to wake up in the morning to go to somewhere, you don't even feel like it.
Yeah.
So for me, we also need to remember that us as industries, we are passionate about this. And we are humans, we understand sometimes the budget can be a problem, but we try to accommodate everyone. Just come to me. Remember, all budgets are different. Just come to me and tell me, Patricia, this is my budget. How can we work with it? There's nothing that is, you know, this is what you're supposed to be paid and that's it.
Yeah.
Let's sit down. Tell me your budget. Don't think about Gloria. Gloria was probably sponsored by someone, and you're here with the pressure.
Yeah.
So you just come as you are. Let's talk. Let me give you my suggestion, and then we see how we can go forward with it. But we also love the fact that Kenyans, African, we're embracing the culture of celebrating, because we are not big at this.
Yes.
And the fact that one of the feedbacks I read there, that, YOLO. Yeah, let's celebrate. Life is for the living. So let's make memories when we can. Let's just not be in a space that, oh, the budget. Of course, there's the budget, but let's not forget that we are living for these memories. You're going to show your grandkids photos of your wedding and how much fun you had. So these are some of the things that people should go by, besides focusing on the budget and the pressure. There are some of the points that you should consider. Do an event, but do it in the right way. Okay. That would be my advice.
Okay. Gloria, every time you listen to people during their wedding days, they always say it's the best day of their lives. So yes, definitely there's no problem with investing very well on the best day of your life.
Yes, I concur, because honestly, you don't ideally, typically, you're not supposed to repeat a wedding. So this is a like once in a lifetime event, whether it's a wedding, whether it's a baby shower, or I mean, you're never gonna, experience that particular moment ever again. So I think, yes, there is preference in trying to maximize that day to becoming the best day of your life. So if I can, and I am willing to, and I am able to, however I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. Because even birthdays, typically, I notice that people especially have this mentality for sherehe iko wapi, it's your birthday, so sherehe iko, But at the end, I typically believe in celebrating. Like I said, I think that West African culture that is slowly, coming back to East Africa, of celebrating each milestone, taking each and every moment and enjoying that moment in the season of that moment, and not thinking back and saying, I wish I did, because I have friends, like when we were graduating, and graduation, and some people choose to celebrate, and some others just said, it's not that important, it's okay. Yeah. But then years down, you're thinking, I should have had a graduation party. After all. I mean, it was my first undergraduate. Why didn't I, take the time and think about it? Because it can be in any form of celebration. We're not talking about, it doesn't have to be lavish, but if you can, please go ahead. But I think it's also important to take time and say, I want to celebrate this milestone. This is important to me, and I want to celebrate it. But how I choose to celebrate it now is, again, limited by what is available to me, and how can I make it the best day possible of my life. Because for someone else, and like Patricia mentioned, the event is tailor-made to you, to that event. So if I'm tailor-making a birthday to me, I'm typically not, for me personally, I'm not going to reference someone, or if I saw something, I'd be like, I liked what she did here, but then for me, I would like this way, e.g. because I'm not a flower person. Me, I'm not the kind of roses or sweet tulips, or I'm not a flower person. Yeah. So, I mean, if you come and tell me I'm celebrating you with flowers, I'd be like, okay, I would refuse. First time I had. Yeah, I would refuse, but then I'll be like, okay, I'm not a flower person. Yeah. But bring me some cake and I will clear it off your table, So everybody has their own way of enjoyment. So you are free to have enjoyment. You're free to celebrate. But again, like I think like most of us are echoing, within the parameters of your capability. Yeah. Do not involve my friend Penina, and now because I've met you today, after today I start stalking her and saying, hey, Penina, you see, I want, and you must come. But
Patricia would tell you that's a bit common though.
But that's the thing. Now, for me, that's where now I draw the line. Because as a friend, there's what I can do. E.g., like if a friend comes and tells me they're having a sort of celebration, even me, I'll be like, okay, that's nice. Maybe I can give her, like maybe I can do 5 Gs this month, and then, and give towards her wedding or towards her event. Yeah. But it's not then becoming a demand. It's not then, oh, Kiprop ukikuja, you must come with 10,000. I mean, I don't even know where you are. Who knows even financially where you are as a person? And who knows, maybe you're in a position to do it. But then if I give that as the benchmark, as the only way to celebrate, then that becomes an issue.
And we'll definitely come back to that issue, of course, of how we finance these celebrations after this. And I think Patricia will be helping us talk to us about how we can manage. But we have to go for a quick break. But remember, the Kiambaa constituency by-elections are ongoing, and so are the Muguga ward by-elections, of course. And my colleagues Nayoma Sampaw and Kennedy Mureithi are on the ground. After this quick commercial break, we'll come back with them to give us a quick update of what else is ongoing on the ground. Don't go too far.
Shopping season is here thanks to Notify Mall. Shop from hundreds of online shops at our mega malls along Moi Avenue in Nairobi and Moi Avenue in Mombasa. Notify Mall, all your favorite online brands under one roof.
This is what it all comes down to. This is the moment of truth, the brightest lights, and the game's biggest stage. Two teams left standing on a quest for the crown. Who will be number one? This is history. This is the Suns versus the Bucks. This is the NBA Finals. That's game.
With all due respect.
With all due respect. With all due respect. Should we despair at this push and pull as President Uhuru Kenyatta decided to choose judges and leave others?
Questions have been raised on the 6th.
There's so many questions to think about.
The way to clear those questions is a process through JSC.
This is not the process. If the president had issues before, when these people are being interviewed, he should have raised these issues then.
It is not to say that after 2010 judges are not committing any crimes. You can go to the judiciary and have missing files, and it is not missing. Your file kupatikana ati ujipange ati cheza kama wewe James Smart, cheza kama wewe.
I don't care if you tell Rahina that I'm not her real daughter. I'm not scared of you anymore.
Your hate, my darling. Your seething hate for Rahina and all the Monterubios is just as great as mine.
Well, sometimes I think I hate you much more than I hate them.
My dad will die when he finds out, especially since he thinks highly of Herman.
You will learn to overcome your hate, because that is what's best for the two of us. Don't you think so?
Wow, thank you for your time. How juicy.
Juicy. Juicy.
Lifestyle Heights, a prestigious gated community in a tranquil environment offering elegantly styled 2 or 3 and a 3-bedroom plus a DSQ apartment, combining tasteful design and modern amenities. Contact us on 0706 155 277 or 0726 205 208.
Thank you for staying with your world on NTV this morning. Of course, my guests are still with me. We are talking about celebrations of course, in Kenya, and whether we are overdoing it. But before we resume that conversation on whether we are overdoing celebrations in Kenya, remember I mentioned earlier that the Muguga ward by-elections as well as the Kiambaa constituency by-elections are ongoing at the moment. And of course, my colleagues Nayoma Sampao and Kennedy Mureithi are on the ground with the latest. Kennedy, we spoke earlier, and of course, by then voting had just started it's kicked off, and we started to see people streaming into the polling stations. Have the numbers started perhaps going up? And what do you have for us?
Well, a very good morning to you, Victor. And yes, the numbers are picking up, and we are at one of the polling stations here at Moshada Primary School, where we have seen that the elderly, the moment they come in, they're being assisted, and they're being, actually, as the queues are building up, they're being brought straight into where they're supposed to vote. Right now, what you can actually see on your screen is that an elderly lady has just come in, and they are confirming her status with the KIEMS machine, just to make sure that it is indeed, or this is indeed her polling station. One other elderly person had just come in, but she has had to be taken to another polling station just because they could not see her name. We've also seen, not just here, but other places where they just have to also key in your ID details. And yes, as you can see, that they've been able to know, and she's being called out loudly so that they can just make sure that it is indeed her, and she confirms that that is her name, and she is being assisted by someone else whom the IEBC officials in this particular room are communicating that information, that the person who's coming in is being assisted, and it is information that is being said from outside. The level of transparency that we've been able to see this far, Victor, is actually impeccable, as most of the places where we've gone and those who are coming in to be assisted, we've seen that all the agents in that particular room are being involved. Even if that person needs to go onto the polling booth, the agents who are in that particular polling station are being called just to make sure that they do, or even the voting as it goes on, the person who is being assisted to vote is the one to make that decision, and if that decision is the one that is going to be communicated. Just as my camera person will be able to show, is that at this polling booth, it is written, do not use mobile phones. That is one of the messages that was communicated seriously yesterday by the returning officer, where they were saying that there are those who want to vote, and immediately they vote, they want to take a photo of the ballot paper so that they could probably go out and cash out on it. So that question was raised heavily, and we've been able to see that the polling officials are very, very, very strict with regards to what will happen when they get you with a phone. We've also noticed that there is a bit of organization as the numbers build in different parts of this polling in this constituency. Remember that there are 154 polling stations, and as we started earlier today, the numbers have been building, and in most of the polling stations where we've gone, Kiprop, is that as they started at 6 o'clock are not the same numbers that we are seeing right now. Actually, they are building. In some polling stations, there are more than 3,000 voters, and the numbers, notwithstanding the age, are quite building up. I want to come with my camera person, Nelly, just to show how it is looking like. People are already patient, just coming out to make sure that they do exercise that democratic right of voting. These are just numbers, the people in one of the polling stations who've just come out, and they're standing in line to make sure that they vote. The only preferential treatment that is given is to those who are elderly or pregnant ladies, or those who are disabled. But this is one of those polling stations. The police officers are making sure that everything goes as planned, and the COVID-19 protocols are also being observed to the latter. So we are moving around the constituency into all the polling stations. Remember, we also said that at the entry points of this constituency, there are barriers that have been erected. Remember, yesterday there were a bit of concerns that had been raised with regards to the number of people that might be brought into the constituency. So the police are a bit vigilant to make sure that each and every person who comes in, if you have a vehicle that is carrying more than 2 people, the police want to confirm. I don't know whether there is a bit of scuffle. We don't know what's happening, but there are those who are coming in. The people who are coming to vote are very serious with regards to what they want happen. So they want to make sure that everything goes seamless. They woke up very early in the morning, they came, and they don't want anybody who's just come in to cross the line and move ahead of the queue. So the vigilance that we've been able to see here, Kiprop, is quite impeccable, as everybody wants to vote and they want their voice heard. But right now we are keeping an eye as we also move to other places where we want to make sure and also know where the key players. Remember, this election has 8 candidates, and all of them, as we've seen on the ballot paper, are there. So you come in and you choose whomsoever that you want. But right now, we want to move around to make sure that everything is also going on rightly. As of now, we've not heard of any incident so far about insecurity or anything that may deter these elections from going on. But we're moving around just to make sure that everything goes as planned. My camera person and I will be seeing you in a few. Back to you, Victor.
All right, thank you, Kennedy. Definitely the turnout is impressive. But before I let you go, in the run-up to this, of course, elections today, yesterday, there were the counter-accusations that we saw from both the UDA and the Jubilee Party on issues of rigging of voting. And this is the same thing that we saw during the Matungu and London ward in Nakuru by-elections, where there were quite a number of incidents, including violence and even electoral officers being harassed by politicians and goons. Maybe just give us a quick update on that. Yesterday, we saw quite a number of police officers on the ground. What's the situation like this time around?
Well, a very good question there, Victor. And in every election, the politicians want to drive a certain narrative, as we saw yesterday. Remember, the IEBC official was also very categorical. I remember yesterday, members of the United Democratic Alliance even went ahead to speak to the returning officer, that is Mr. Peter Muigai. And Mr. Peter Muigai, in their questions, the UDA wanted to know how the preparations were, and one of their major concerns was the number of police officers that have been brought here. But Mr. Peter Muigai was very categorical that in every polling station, that is the 154, there is going to be 2 officers per polling station. If you count that, comes to just something slightly above 300. Then he also said that he was very categorical that he has asked for 3 other platoons to be on standby in the event that there is going to be any skirmishes in any part of this constituency. So the number of police, according to UDA, was quite a number, and they were raising those concerns as they did in Juja, saying that the police were quite a number. Also, the other thing that you've asked was the usage of the intelligence service, as he had captured yesterday. But right now, Victor, those people, you cannot know them. But there were also allegations that these people would come in armed, but we have not seen that this far. So the politicians will make their allegations, but also the IEBC would not be deterred by those allegations. Probably those are messages that the politicians would also want to make. But the IEBC has assured of a seamless process this far, and what we've also witnessed is something that is seamless even with the agents, because the agents are the representatives of the candidates in every polling station. So if the agents raise any alarm, then it causes some queries when it comes to the candidates. But right now, none has been raised so far.
All right. My colleague Kennedy Muraithi there, of course, is moving around Kiambaa constituency for the Kiambaa constituency by-elections. And definitely it's a high-stakes election. We'll definitely be going back to Kennedy Muraithi to give us the latest updates for that election much later. Remember, this seat fell vacant following the death of course, Paul Koinange. That's the Member of Parliament for Kiambaa, the late. And, of course, the registered voters is at 95,000. They mentioned that there are 154 polling stations. We will try and see later on, of course, if the turnout will be as impressive and who will perhaps emerge victorious. He mentioned that there were 8, of course, candidates for this post, including the 2 frontrunners, that is Kariri Njama of Jubilee Party, as well as John Njuguna Wanjiku of UDA Party. Remember, my colleague Nayoma Sampao is also following up with the Muguga ward by-elections, which the seat fell vacant following the death of MCA Eliud Ngugi. That was also in March. She will also be joining us later on to give us an update, of course, with what else is happening across that by-election. But for now, let's resume our conversation regarding celebrations in Kenya and whether we are overdoing it. And because we wanted to hear what some of you would have to say regarding this conversation, we sent out our roving reporter, that is Brian Mushiri, to the streets to just ask a number of Kenyans out there what they think about today's topic.
Naona hizi events zimezidi kuchangisha, mtu anakienda hosa anachangisha, mtu akifanya harusi anachangisha. Hii events zimezidi kabisa. Nafaa mtu ajipe mwenyewe shughuli, ajipe mradi ya kutafuta pesa, akuwa anajisaidia, sio lazima utegemee watu wengine. Sio lazima tuchangishe kila kitu.
Tunachangisha sana mazishi. Kwanza huko ghetto huko, leo unasikia kuna msee amezikwa, kuna msee amededi, nafaa tuchangishe, shaona. After 1 week tena unasikia tena kuna msee mwingine amededi. Sasa hizo nini za matanga ndo zimekuwa mingi sana ghetto.
Akuchanga ni kitu ya kawaida in our daily basis. Na kuchangia msee mimi naona ni kitu fresh because unacheki sahi generation yetu tuko. Hawezi handle some situation alone. Lazima tu upick some help from places to places, at least zikuboost. So kuchangia msee inalingana pia kuna shida gani. Kuna zile za kujibamba, kuchangia kujibamba, na kuna zile za kuchangiwa kama mtu kuna shida. So kama kuna shida saidiwe, kama ana shida, kama na kujibamba naye ajipambane na hali yake, unacheki.
Kama ni kitu kweli tunachangisha juu saa hii kulingana na venye corona iko. Hakuna venye watu wataenda waite meeting atuanze kuchangisha kwa meeting, unaona? Hasa unaona afadhali wachangishe through WhatsApp. Ndio watu nini pia avoid mambo na coronavirus.
Asa unajua inalingana na situation ya msee na budget yenye anataka. Kama ni harusi tu anataka budget kadogo, atutamsaidia kuchana, lakini anataka budget kubwa tukufanya big harusi, ni ngumu mzee, ni ngumu.
Contribution si mbaya, lakini kuna zile areas tunafaa tu angalie. Kitu kama wedding, that's a luxury honestly. Mtu kama na kuinvite wedding yake umchangie, si atafadhali postpone hiyo wedding juu sasa kama ana contribute ya wedding, how will he be able to take care of himself or herself once they finally settle down? It honestly shows that you don't have money to maintain your lifestyle. So there's no need of doing a harambe for wedding. Lakini kama ni funeral expenditure, honestly do your contribution. If someone approaches you, just give out what you have, because inasaidianga kuna watu wenyewe wanaumia and they cannot make it without the help of the contributions. Ndio maana na politicians wana chip in kusaidia, kwa sababu wanajua impact ya hiyo contribution kwa society.
My colleague, of course, Brian Mushiri out there went to, of course, get your views around the streets. And maybe I can come back to you, Mumbi, on this, because definitely from those sound bites we've just played, the problem is not having a big party or celebrating your life in a big way. The problem is if you want to celebrate it in a big way, but from my pocket.
I think everybody is in agreement with we are willing and ready to support you. I think it's a very African thing. You know, we've been, raised up knowing that these things are a communal thing. And I think most people, even from the sound bites, people are more inclined to contribute towards things that they feel are necessities, like funerals, than things that they feel are luxuries, like weddings and birthday parties. I think also the other thing that we need to understand is that you can't do it at my expense, unfortunately. You need to be able to live within your means. I think also we have been talking a lot about money as the resource, but there's also other resources that are required of me when I'm coming in as an attendee or somebody coming in as your bridal party, because we don't understand that there's also the element of time, which is money. Because even leading up to the wedding, I have to sacrifice a couple of Saturdays to come and do fittings, to go and help you look for venues and look for wedding dresses and all of that. And those things cannot be quantifiable. So we need to understand that, you know what, people can be able to give of their time, but maybe money may not be something that they're willing to give. And even just recently, I was reading somewhere where a lady in the US gave her bridal party a list, essentially, of the time and money that would be required of them, you know, and essentially at the bottom of the paper, it wasn't really a contract, but just like a list of sorts. And she said, like, I'd be happy and willing if you're okay to not agree to be my bridesmaid, because we would need money for dresses. We will need time for us to go out of town for bridal showers and bachelorette parties. So if you feel like you're not able to do so, just tick that you're not, and I won't hold it against you. I think a lot of people feel obligated to give because my friendship is pegged on my giving, right?
Yeah.
And so if I don't give, you hold me in a bad light, or our relationship will be affected. So I think we need to move to this place of, I might not give money, but I might give of my time, of my love, of my other resources that cannot be counted, but are still valuable, I think.
Okay, let me just let Gloria to react to that, because she's just come from holding her own ceremony here, and I'm sure you have friends who have done this, and you have people who quite complain that, you know what, I was just chilling and I'm being added to this WhatsApp group and they're asking me for you to be on this. Yeah. You are a member of my committee and we need 40,000 shillings in the next 3 weeks.
Well, okay, my personal experience first was very different, because our support system really came through for us, even without saying much. We presented a budget and people really stepped up. Like, people give left, right, and center. I want to do this, I want to do this. Like, there's a friend of my mom's and a lady in church. She had offered to pay for my cake even before I announced our wedding. So when I finally said, oh, by the way, I'm getting married, she's like, good. Give me the budget and I'll figure it out. Yeah. So, like Mombi is saying, everybody steps up in a different capacity. So I think you need to tag on those friendships and on those support systems that can really help you. Because there are some people who, like my sister, came in and did 90% of the work, because me, at some point, I just told myself, this is a lot. I just want this. Yeah. Thanks. And she's after we went around looking for venues, there's so much detail to it, and it takes months. It's a whole process that involves every single person. Mara, we are in this car, that car, those guys have gone to Karen, that side, these guys have gone due to there's photo shoot venues, there's where you people are going to go. There's a lot of detail that comes into place. And we were blessed enough to have people who actually took us through the process. Yeah. And it makes it so much easier. And I think for me, she will back me up. It is so much easier when you know what you want. When you are sure about what it is that you want your event to be, you're good to go. Because you see, also some people fall prey, and I apologize if this comes out, but there's people who fall prey. You don't know what you want, and you sit in a meeting with a wedding planner who just gives and throws figures at you and tells you there's this and this is what you need. Yeah. This is what you. But when you know what you want, it's different. So you know what you're looking for, and you know what you can and can't do. Yeah. So if I know I can't be able to mark this match point, and I still want it, there's always a way to get it. Okay,
and maybe if I can hold you to that, because the beauty about weddings and graduation parties is they're once a lifetime events. You can sacrifice your all, your time, your energy, but once you're done, you're done. You're done. But now we have these other ones that are a bit frequent, Yes. So we have birthday parties, it's every year. Yes. You have the baby showers. Yes. Yours might be one, but there are several other friends. So we are going to another one this week, you're going to another one next week. Oh, yeah. Okay. And that's where the problem comes in.
Now, okay, I'll give you an example of even typically where we are right now. So where you're in the middle of planning this baby shower, but in 2 months, so and so, by the way, pia na check in kwa your department. So you know, in 2 months, umeruka kwa, and before you know it, there's a wedding.
Yeah.
Before you know it, there's this. So some you do what you can when you can. Because in this particular maybe season, for this person, I can be able to come in financially. So in this, where I can't financially, I will do. But there are weddings that I have told my friend, if you need the run around and the KYMs, I'm here for you. Because at that time, I know maybe financially, my capacity will not be able to allow me to give you financial support, but I can be able to do the KYMs for you. If you need someone to run around in town and go meet your sijui caterer and meet your sijui who, I will be that person for you. Because typically you find, like you're saying, there are some that are frequent and there are others that happen and you didn't really plan for them. Like funerals, you don't plan for a funeral, but sometimes it happens in the it's part of life, it's a circle of life, so sometimes it happens. So maybe you're in the middle of planning ex's baby shower and then kidogo you have to figure out yourself and do X. But like you're saying, a contribution is not necessarily just financial. I can be your support system. I can be the person that you use to go and figure out fabrics. I can be the person to use to go and figure out your centerpieces. You know, I can be essential. So if you can identify, if someone tells you, I hear you're celebrating this, but I'm not able to do this, but I can do this, use that person.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'll come back to Patricia, especially on the issue of the cost, but allow me to bring in Benjamin just briefly. Benjamin, it's okay sometimes not to celebrate some of these things if you're not in a good position, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you could save them for later, even for things like wedding. I mean, you could have an arrangement probably at the IG's office or bring around friends, officiate it in the manner that probably you'd want. Maybe have a pastor in your midst and just solemnize it and then have the celebration later when you can actually afford it.
You can afford your dream wedding.
Yes, when you can afford a dream wedding and then do your vows again. Actually, there are friends who reached out to us and they have been in marriage for some time. And right now they are okay to, you know, redo their vows and probably just have a small celebration again. Okay. So it's a matter of contentment. And if it's contentment, then it goes back to your values. And as much as also you're following contentment, it just doesn't mean that you should water down everything. Yeah, as everybody was saying, Gloria has been emphasizing on saying that if you can afford it, yeah, go for it. The problem is that you put pressure on people and also on the other side, try to disengage from community. Probably put on conditions like, oh, if you don't have this, you can't come. You know, all these things we are celebrating. There's no celebration outside the context of community. So in as much as we are talking about contentment or even going the extra mile of giving yourself the best, yeah, do it, but consider that you need these people around you and allow them to come in the way that they are comfortable to come in. You know, like she's saying, this one person could be the person that is rooting for you, running errands. They don't have money, but they have that time and value and a keen eye, probably security detail and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Allow me to bring Patricia then. Patricia, so everyone is wondering, how can I do a decent wedding within my budget? That's the question on everyone's mind.
Two things. One will be the number of guests. And by this, I honestly mean just invite...
Maybe I can actually expand the question to how can I organize a decent celebration, not just weddings, but literally every celebration, but within my budget.
Yes, as I was saying, the costs. By this, I mean the number of your guests. You could be happy, just invite the genuine people, someone who's seen you through good, through bad, someone you actually have a relationship with. There are those, I know how our parents are like. ukumbuki ule auntie mwenye alikuwa anakubeba ukiwa mdogo. You can't even recall this person. And I mean this, when they say that they want to invite extra people, you can just have this conversation and say, this is our budget. If you feel like you can chip in for us, then it's okay to add this number of people. But aside from that, I will really emphasize to just, for your guests, just have a number of people that you know are your genuine friends. The next thing will be plan early. Don't just come after a month and ambush people. You know, my wedding is next month. I need so and so to start contributing for me. Have a long plan, and by that you can get like for instance, for us, we give you an option of a payment plan. You don't have to have that extra stress. So for, let's say, you can plan. I've ever had clients who plan a year before their wedding, and every month they're just paying. We'll come up with a payment plan so you don't feel that extra pressure. So those are some of the things that I would advise.
But you said something about friends, and I'm a big person. I'm a people person. So my friends are in their hundreds, and I don't want any of them to miss my wedding or my birthday party. But there's also a limit to how much I can afford to spend, you know, to pay for this.
Yes. So as you say, if they're your true friends, then they should be able to contribute to you. So that's one thing. And then there's also the factor of you planning early. If you know you have that X number of friends, then just even start an year for planning. There's no rush in these things. There's no rush. Just start for my year and tell me we can do this payment plan, and that's okay. You don't have to rush 2 months and give the extra pressure to every other person.
Okay.
So you can plan in a long-term plan.
All right. We have to go for a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we wrap up this conversation on exactly what Patricia is talking about, which is finding the balance, taking your time, and delivering what you, of course, can afford within your budget. But remember, we are still following those by-elections in Muguga Ward and Kiambaa constituency, and Kennedy Mureithi and Nayoma Sampao are still on the ground. When we'll come back, of course, we will also be getting to hear from them. Don't go too far.
Get yourself an aerial decoder plus 1 month free classic bouquet at only 999 Kenya shillings, or a satellite dish decoder plus 30 days free smart bouquet at 2,699 Kenya shillings.
What do you think about Molfix?
Actually, another brand was recommended to me, but it had a leakage problem. Then I decided to try Molfix. His clothes don't get wet anymore.
Because Molfix provides extra protection against leakage thanks to its anti-leakage elastic barriers. All babies deserve a high-quality diaper. You should also try Molfix.
Kids are creative. They can really dazzle with words, and the people around them love the way they write. That is why at Sawa Soap, we are giving all class 6 and 7 kids in all public and private primary schools in Kenya a chance to dazzle Kenya with words in the Sawa Creative Writing Competition. Just write a creative 200 to 300 word essay titled Colors in Life and share it with your English class teacher. The best essays in each county shall be rewarded with goodies from Sawa Soap, and the best 5 essays in Kenya will get a 3-day fully paid trip to Mombasa, lots of goodies from Sawa Soap, and have their essays featured nationally.
The COVID-19 pandemic has occasioned unprecedented need for labor agility and skills dynamism as persons pursue adaptability to the new norm precipitated in the working environment. The pandemic has created both challenges and opportunities in the labor market, as some jobs are phased out and others emerge, bringing about the need for multi-skilling if one is to be competitive in the evolving workplace. On the 15th of July, the International Labour Organization will lead the globe in observing the World Skills Day, with the day themed Reimagining Youth Skills Post-Pandemic. How can the youth be better equipped for adaptability in a rapidly evolving labour market? How can both public and private sector players better create an environment for decent and sustainable work? NTV will host a virtual Nation Leadership Forum on World Youth Skills Day, placing the spotlight on these pertinent issues.
Can you get yourself inside my room? Let me take you up. Take you up. Let me take you down. Lay you down. Let me show you up. Show you up. Let me turn you on. Turn you on. Let me show you some good lo 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 lo. Lo 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 lo. Let me show you good lo 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 lo.
To get Lolo by Omar Lay, dial star 812 star 804 hash. Skiza, Non-Nation.
Thank you for staying with your world on NTV this morning. We resume our conversation regarding, of course, celebrations in Kenya and whether we are overdoing them. But before we do that, remember we mentioned that we are following up those by-elections that is in Muguga ward in Kiambu County, as well as, of course, Kiambaa constituency, where Kennedy Muriithi has just come from speaking to us. But for now, let's cross over to Nayoma Sampao. She's in Muguga ward. Good morning, Nayoma. Good to see you. Where are you? Are you at the moment? And what's the turnout like for people coming to vote?
Well, we are coming to you live from Muguga Primary School, where voting is already ongoing, and at this particular moment, it's chilling, like it's very, very cold in this particular polling station. And as you can see, from this particular point is where people come in. That is the entrance to this particular polling station. And the first thing the voters do is they come in is wash their hands due to the prevailing conditions, the COVID-19 pandemic. And the security people, and there is someone who's actually in charge of making sure that every voter is coming in wearing a mask and wearing it properly. As you can see, there are very many police in this particular polling station. This is the biggest polling station in this particular ward, in Muguga ward. The highest number of voters are going to vote in this polling station. As you can see, the IEBC officials are there on standby. After washing their hands, they come close to where the IEBC officials are, and they will be guided to where they are supposed to vote. In this polling station, there are 7 streams. You might not be able to see them right now, but there are 7 streams, and from the far end, you can see voters lining up. The voter turnout is a bit impressive in this polling station, according to the IEBC officials, and also because of the weather. They say that the turnout is a bit impressive, considering that the weather is quite cold, and it could actually discourage many people from showing up to vote. Initially, we spoke. First of all, in this by-election, we have 4 candidates from different political parties. We have one from the Jubilee Party, Gedenji Joseph, and we have another one from the UDA Party, the PPK, and also the Third Way Alliance. The UDA candidate has already voted here at Muguga Primary Polling Station, and he's already alleging that rigging could be going on in other polling stations such as Wangige Primary and St. so he's already alleging that the chiefs are being used to rig the elections, and we spoke to him earlier on, and he was saying that they are trying to rig in favor of the Jubilee candidate. But at the moment, we haven't really spoken to the Jubilee candidate. He is yet to come to vote. We will be speaking to him a bit late to be also able to get from him what he thinks of the by-elections so far. But we will be here and several other polling stations. This particular ward has 29 polling stations. We'll be touring some of them, and later on we will be giving you a detailed report of how it is going so far. Yeah, back to you, Victor.
Nayoma, before I let you go, definitely those numbers are a bit impressive, but do we know what time we will expect the voting to be closed? And perhaps, because this is just a ward, not a constituency, can we expect the final results today?
Yes, according to the IEBC, the polling stations are expected to close at 6, strictly by 6. All the polling stations should be closed. So we are hopeful that we could be able to get the end results by the end of the day.
All right, thank you very much. Nayoma Sampao there, my colleague, coming us from Muguga Primary. She's following up, of course, the Muguga by-elections, which the seat fell vacant following the death of MCA Eliud Ngugi. Of course, that was in March this year. Remember, Kennedy Mureithi is still moving around Kiambaa constituency, following up the Kiambaa by-elections, of course, for us, and will be joining us later at the tail end of this conversation. But for now, let me just resume this conversation with my guests this morning. We are talking about the issue of celebrations, how we can manage the costs and ensure that we don't spend perhaps too much or spend beyond our means when we are planning for our celebrations. And let me just come back to you, Patricia, on this, because definitely there are those what you'd call money saving tips that you would use to perhaps cut your costs. I keep hearing of issues of people, even instead of making your own gown, you hire, I think, something like that.
Yes, actually we were just having that conversation during the break.
Yeah.
She was explaining to me on how much she bought the wedding dress, and that's something that I'd actually mentioned to her. She could have considered hiring a dress.
Yeah.
However, mine is more on the decor part, and
Yeah.
the decor part is now providing the tents, the tables, the chairs, and so forth. I don't know if you remember when we had this conversation, when you started at the beginning of the show,
Yeah.
I had mentioned about an indoor setup. You see, for instance, if you go to an indoor setup, to the hotel that is,
Yeah.
and if you go to the grounds, there's a difference. If you go to the grounds, that means I'll have to bring in the tents, the tables, the chairs, everything, because there's nothing on the ground. But in the sense that you're looking at maybe cutting costs, you could consider an indoor setup. And now that would be a hotel where all the furniture are already provided for. So they provide the tables already, they provide the chairs already. So mine will just to come and view the space and see where we can just do touch up to transform the space.
Okay.
So that could be a guiding step if you're looking at saving on the budget.
Okay. Let me ask Gloria, how did you finance your events, by the way, any that you've done?
Any. Most of them are self-financed, but like I said, in different spaces and different occasions, I have had typically my family, my church stepping in, especially to do some of the events. Like I mentioned, like during our wedding, some of our things were taken care of by different people, by other people who are not us, you know. But some of them are self-financed. Some of the events are typically, you know, support system. Yeah.
Okay.
But there are different ways of doing it.
Maybe if I can get to Mumbi. Mumbi, are there some do's and don'ts when it comes to financing these celebrations, whether it's the birthday party, the bridal showers and all that? Can I, for instance, take a loan and finance my wedding?
I'm going to speak from my personal experience.
Yeah.
I'm not a big believer in taking out loans to finance things like weddings and birthday parties, but to each their own. But personally, I feel that there are some things worth taking out a loan. I believe in our business class, it was assets, things that have a return on investment, right?
Yeah.
And maybe the return on this investment of spending on a birthday party is the happiness of your attendees or the happiness of your children in terms of the birthdays and all of that. But I still believe that you can do something that's going to be worthwhile, that's going to be really fun. that's going to be valuable within your means. I feel like also there is sort of decorum even when you're seeking out these events. And what do I mean by that? Because you might not be able to finance and you may need to tap into your friendships and to your family, but it's also in the ask. How are you asking for people to come through for you? I love what Gloria has said, because some friends and family come through without even you having to ask, which is great. But when you do need to ask, how is it that you're asking? Is it like, hey, I need you to give me 10,000 shillings by the end of the month or else? Or is it more of, I'd love your support in any way, shape or form as we gear up to this wedding? And also, lack of planning on your part should not be an expense on my part. So I love what Patricia said in terms of planning in advance. So if you can't start planning for your wedding or this events months in advance, it really removes a lot of the pressure from yourself and also from the people coming through for your event, and also those who are going to be chipping in. I think also there is the thing of, there's a sort of unsaid rules in terms of some of these event contributions. What do I mean by that? Like for baby showers, if I contributed to your baby shower for your firstborn, will you also require a baby shower for your second and thirdborn? Or is it that we just we just do the contribution for the first baby and then we assume that for future kids you use whatever we have given to you? Or is it that we do a baby shower for a boy and then if it's a girl we can do a baby shower? So just sort of those unwritten rules on how we can come through for our friends and family. And I think just to wrap up, what I'm trying to say is that people are ready and willing to come through for you. You know, we've been raised up in a society where your burden is my burden, our situation, our problems shared is a problem halved. So I think people have the heart to give. It's all about how you ask for this help. If you do ask, and whether or not people have the financial means or even the time and resources to give to you, and whether or not you are ready and willing to accept whatever help is given to you at any one point. Okay, and Benjamin, I'll allow you to respond to that very briefly. Are there things that perhaps, because I'm trying to finance my wedding, I might need help from friends, are there things that perhaps mistakes I should not even try to do when I'm trying to perhaps source for help?
Yeah. So I feel like you should be very straightforward and honest as to which kind of help you need, you know, the financial obligation that goes into whatever event that you're planning, and communicate that very clearly. And then there is the aspect of accountability, because I have been in committees where we actually contributed money and then the group was closed. I don't know where the bride and the groom went. You know? So there's that aspect of accountability, because down the road you will still need these people. Yeah. So you better own up to being accountable. And the other thing is don't go into the pressure of, you know, those people that are trying to show that this is the ultimate experience, but their motive is just to commercialize whatever service that they have to offer. Yeah, just go within your means. If there's anything you can do to cut costs, please do, and consult widely. Yeah, like Patricia was saying, she would have advised Gloria to go for a hired gown. You know, if there is anything, any wisdom that you can borrow from somewhere in order to cut costs, then definitely that's something that you'd want to bring on board. Okay. All right. Patricia, let me just come back to you on this then. I don't know if you have this figure offered, but do we have like a figure of the smallest amount I can do perhaps a wedding with, or something like I can host a decent event with? Because sometimes for most people, decent event means, you know, something just above 600,000 or something, 500,000. Yeah. I wouldn't say there's a particular figure. Because remember, everything is itemized. Yeah. For instance, before the day of the wedding or the day of the event, there's something that we call a mock setup that we do for you. This we do for you so that you're not ambushed on your event. We don't want conversations like, Patricia, this is not what we agreed on. Okay, so that happens, right? It does, it does. So as we noticed, things to avoid, we avoid this by doing mock setups.
What do I mean by this? So Kiprop, we plan for a day. You come into the office. I will have a table. I will have different linens on the colors that you want. And then I'll also have different centerpieces. I'll also have different chairs. Remember, all these, they come at different costs. So there's a chair for 200 bob, there's a chair for 700 bob. And we also have a linen for 1,000 bob, for example, and maybe also 800. So it just depends. So that means I cannot put an exact figure on that. Okay. So it's based on whatever it is that you're selecting. If it's this table item, if it's this centerpiece, if it's this chair, that's the time now I put it all on quotation, and then you can be able to see the budget.
But I took note of the fact that you mentioned that whichever amount that I mentioned, we can try and see how much you can do for me. Okay. All right. Thank you. We have to take some quick feedback then. Remember, we had asked you if you think that we perhaps overspend and overdo this perhaps life events. Dennis says, depends with your ability. To some, 3 million is a drop in the ocean, and they are not overdoing it. To some, 500K is 90% of the savings, and that is overdoing. Thank you very much. I think that's some perspective from Dennis. Mwesh says, social media pressure is real. It's okay to party, but not at other people's expenses. Business people are suffering. Mnakopa mpaka parties. Maybe Patricia can respond to that. And Musila says, people need to learn to do things their way. People are forcing themselves into debt, trying to impress others, to organize an event that is as they saw somewhere on YouTube. Thank you, Musila. We have Nakola who says celebrations depend on the person's budget and the kind of guests. Maybe I can just let Patricia, because when we were speaking earlier, you mentioned the issue of people who want a champagne treatment with a beer budget. Briefly.
Refresh that again.
Yeah, you mentioned the challenge of people who perhaps expect this level of service, but with this small amount of money.
Of the budget. Yes, definitely there is that. Now, my part would be to come in with different ideas. Remember, we don't want to affect the quality of your event.
It has to stay up.
It has to stay. So for me, I've already done my homework. Before you come in, remember we already had a first meeting. You talked, you explained to me, this is what I'm looking at and everything. So for me, it's just to go back and be able to see, how can I help this person with this budget that they've brought to the table? So I'll just sit and see how we can just maintain the theme that you're looking at, and of course just bringing in things that I know you will, probably could afford that. So we don't put pressure or say we cannot work with your budget. So you come in, but there's things that you'll have to compromise on. For instance, we can say, okay, maybe you cannot be able to afford this table linen. Let's maximize maybe on the centerpiece to give it a pop. So you just realize you can use just a simple table linen, but if you just do maybe you go a bit overboard on the centerpiece, then it all has a different effect at the end of the day.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, gentlemen and ladies, we have to close this conversation. Allow me to take your closing remarks from each one of you. Perhaps I can start with you, Mombe, your closing remarks, because these are events that are with us, are very important, and will continue to be with us in the future. But just give me your parting shot.
My parting shot is live within your means. Live within your means. And I'm sure whatever it is that you're able to afford will be amazing. Tapping into the expertise of event planners such as Patricia, tapping into the collective efforts and love of your family and friends, you can have an event that is going to be amazing, that is within your means, and you're not going to be straining, because I don't think it's valuable for you to have such an amazing event one day and then have the ripple effects of paying up for debts or dealing with loan sharks for weeks after the event is over. So I think just let's exercise due diligence, let's exercise good behavior in terms of dealing with our finances, and also knowing what to budget and what to splurge on when it comes to events.
All right, thank you very much, Mobe. And Benjamin?
Yeah, so mine would be to tell you, go for contentment. Yeah, whatever you do, be sure you're content, be sure you're happy, and enjoy life. Of course, there's the whole aspect of moderation. don't do anything in excesses, and on the other hand, just don't squeeze yourself down. Yeah, because we are saying, oh, don't spend too much. Yeah, just do everything within the confines of moderation. And I welcome you to Kibali Ministry. Follow Kibali Ministry on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay. All right, and maybe even as you give us your closing remarks, perhaps how can we find how can we access your services if I want to do my wedding tomorrow?
Okay, so on Instagram, it's Literal and Creative Events.
Yeah.
Same on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, your closing remarks then.
I would just like to echo Mombi's sentiments on just live within your budget. I mean, within your budget. Have proper planning, an year or so. Get the right figures when it comes to your guests. Invite the people that matter to you, and also get an events person who will understand your needs. Remember, that is very, very important, because also as events planners, we work with reliable suppliers. So get someone who knows what they are doing and someone who will understand your journey, your customized journey. So that would be my advice.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Patricia. And maybe I can allow you, Gloria, to close the conversation for us this morning.
My parting shot is there's always room for compromise. You can celebrate anything however you want, but there's always room for compromise. There's always something you can do to save more. There's always something you can do to just go to take you a longer route, but you can get to your destination. So there's always room for compromise in whatever you're planning.
All right, and thank you very much. Of course, that is brings us to the end of today's conversation. We have been talking about how we hold our celebrations today. I think the takeaway message for me, several of them, but one of them being finding a balance and doing it within your means. Many thanks for you who have, of course, given us, kept us company since the beginning of this show from 7 a.m. to right now as we close this conversation. I hope you have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation as we have. Many thanks to my guests this morning. Of course, as I mentioned, Patricia Zaina, she is with Literal Events and Creatives. Many thanks as well to Gloria Divine, who has joined us in studio, and joining us virtually this morning, Mumbi Thande, as well as Benjamin Njadha, who is an apostle with Kibali Ministry. From me and the entire team, it's goodbye for now, but remember, we're still following up those 2 by-elections that I mentioned. That includes, of course, the first being the Kiambaa constituency by-elections, and as well as the Muguga wards by-elections. The voting has already kicked off, as my colleague Kennedy Mureithi mentioned earlier, as well as Nayoma Sampao, and the turnout is a bit impressive. But we will, of course, keep covering these events for you. We will be bringing you the latest with our subsequent bulletins. Remember, NTV Sasa is coming up at 11 a.m. and we'll also have our 1 p.m. broadcast with the latest regarding the Muguga ward by-elections as well as the Kiambaa by-elections. From me and the entire team, it's goodbye for now, but keep watching NTV. I've been your host, Victor Kiprop.
Presenting the new Harpic Bathroom Cleaner. Compared to ordinary detergents, its thick formulation gives you superior cleaning and kills 99.9%